I loved what the Jets were able to do because they need talent everywhere. They need speed. They need explosiveness. Their entire roster needed a revamp, and they were able to do that. So getting David Bailey, that's immediate juice on your defense, which they need, and maybe a pass rusher is going to help them defend the pass and maybe even lead to a few interceptions.
Yeah, we all had more
an actual interception. Yeah.
So, I mean, look, I think this is as good of a draft as they have had on paper in a long time. And there is a reason for optimism. That's what the offseason is all about. They're infusing this organization with optimism by the 3 players they selected. No question.
Fernando Mendoza's situation with the Raiders is taking a shocking turn. Reports are spreading that the organization may have already made a surprising decision involving their rookie quarterback, and fans are completely divided.
Seems as though they are not running it back with Aaron Rodgers up with the Jets. Reports came out about a meeting that happened, and basically left that meeting with the understanding they would not be running it back with Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets.
The Las Vegas Raiders have been historically, generationally bad. Since Derek Carr left, they burned through 7 starting quarterbacks in 3 seasons and went 15-36. They haven't won a playoff game since January 2003. The 2025 season was supposed to be different. Pete Carroll, Geno Smith, Chip Kelly. It was a disaster. The Raiders went 3-14, their worst record since 2006. The offense was dead last in the NFL. Geno threw an NFL-leading 17 interceptions. Chip Kelly got fired midseason. Carroll got fired after 1 year. The only thing they got out of the wreckage was the #1 overall pick. But while the Raiders were falling apart, a kid in Bloomington, Indiana was doing something nobody expected. His name was Fernando Mendoza.
Hey, we're back on GMFB. Breaking news from the New York Jets. They have fired Robert Saleh. This tweet coming from our own Tom Pelissero, per his sources. Of course, the Jets just coming back from their trip to London, where they lost a game to the Minnesota Vikings in his 4 years, 3+ years as the Jets head coach.
Fernando Mendoza was never supposed to be here. He grew up in Miami, played quarterback at Christopher Columbus High School, and put up decent numbers, but nothing that excited big programs. He was a 3-star recruit, ranked 216th in Florida. He committed to Yale. That was his future. Ivy League football with no NFL pipeline. But when a Cal commit flipped to UCLA, offensive coordinator Bill Musgrave came knocking. Mendoza flew to Berkeley, liked it, and flipped his commitment. One Power 5 offer out of 130+ programs. That single scholarship changed everything.
To follow breaking news, the New York Jets have a new head coach. It's Aaron Glenn, according to our NFL insider, Jonathan Jones. The 52-year-old was one of the hottest names on the market during this cycle after a wildly successful run as the defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions.
It's fair to say that Jets fans were pretty happy with the hire.
But as a former player, how do you feel about the hire?
Jet Nation, we got our guy, right? And you alluded to it, right? And me and Pete have had this discussion. I think that the Jets had to bring somebody in that knows what it means to be a Jet, that would love this job, because he was drafted as a first-round pick for the New York Jets. He was an all-pro for the New York Jets. And from everybody that I've talked to, he touted this job more than anybody because of the history that he had coming in as a former New York Jet.
Mendoza redshirted in 2022, then earned his first start in Week 6 of 2023. He never gave the keys back. 8 starts, 63% completion rate, 1,708 yards, 14 touchdowns. In 2024, he won the job outright, third in the ACC with 3,004 yards, but the team collapsed around him. Cal blew a 35-10 lead against Miami, lost 4 straight by a combined 9 points. He worked under 3 different offensive coordinators in 3 years. He knew he needed something different. Through all the chaos at Cal, Mendoza knew he had more to give. He needed a fresh start, with a coaching staff that believed in him. On December 11, 2024, he entered the transfer portal. 12 days later, he chose Indiana.
And good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank everyone for being here today. I also want to start out by thanking Mr. Johnson, Christopher Johnson, the search committee, Jaime, Mike Tannenbaum, Rick Spielman. I thought it was a great process, and I really enjoyed my time getting to know you guys throughout that time. It is one of the greatest honors and privileges of my life to be named General Manager of the New York Jets. This is a proud franchise with great tradition and incredibly passionate fans.
He picked Indiana over Georgia and Missouri because of head coach Curt Cignetti, who had just led the Hoosiers to their first ever college football playoff. His younger brother Alberto was already there too. What came next was one of the most breathtaking seasons in college football history. Mendoza led Indiana to a perfect 16-0 record and their first national championship ever. 72% completion rate, 3,535 yards, 41 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, Heisman Trophy, Walter Camp, Maxwell Award, Davey O'Brien, Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year. The kid who had one Power 5 offer and was headed to Yale was now the consensus #1 pick in the entire draft. But here's where it gets interesting. Everyone expected the Raiders to hand Mendoza the starting job immediately. Instead, they signed 37-year-old veteran Kirk Cousins weeks before the draft. 5 years, $172 million on paper, but only $20 million guaranteed for 2026. The structure tells you everything. Cousins is the bridge, Mendoza is the future.
Is the #1 sports pick app in the country because it keeps things simple. No complicated drafts. Just pick a few players, decide if they'll go more or less on their stats, and you're in. They've even expanded to team picks, so you can call the winner, the spread, or the game total on top of your player projections. And on top of all that, Prize Picks is available in most states, including California, Texas, and Florida.
The reasoning from inside the building was clear. New head coach Clint Kubiak said his perfect scenario was for Mendoza to learn behind a veteran before taking over.
My goodness, the offense was about as bad as we've seen it. Justin Fields making so many of the same mistakes that we've talked about here throughout the first 5 weeks, and pretty difficult to believe that this is how this one went, and the fact that Justin Fields was not taken out of the game at any point, staggering to me.
Kubiak coached Cousins in Minnesota from 2019 to 2021. That familiarity drove this whole plan. Then there's the Tom Brady factor. Brady, now a Raiders minority owner, personally called Cousins to convince him to sign. Brady has always believed in sitting rookie quarterbacks and letting them learn before throwing them into the fire.
Yes, thank you. That thing? Yes. The 0 interceptions over 17 games, first team in NFL history.
Can never be beat, can only be tied.
That last line is the quiet truth nobody in Vegas wants to say out loud. Brock Bowers and Ashton Jeanty are real weapons, but the wide receiver room is thin. The offensive line is unproven. Throwing Mendoza into this situation right now would be like handing a kid a race car with no brakes. Even Cousins understands the dynamic perfectly.
We have some breaking news into CBS Sports HQ where the New York Jets are trading cornerback Sauce Gardner to the Colts. That's the latest from our lead NFL insider, Jonathan Jones. The Colts are sending 2 first-round picks back to the Jets. It's a huge get for the Colts, who currently sit as the 1 seed in the AFC, sitting at 7-2 on the season.
Cousins has been the bridge before. In Atlanta, he got benched for Michael Penix Jr. in 2024, before taking over again after Penix tore his ACL. He knows this role. But not everyone agreed Mendoza was even the right pick. One anonymous ACC coach told ESPN he didn't believe Mendoza had NFL traits.
Today was the New York Jets shipping 3-time Pro Bowl defensive tackle Quinnen Williams to the Dallas Cowboys in return for a 2026 second-round pick, a 2027 first-round pick, and defensive tackle Mozzie Smith, a former first-round pick from Michigan. The Jets add a boatload of draft picks today. They arm themselves for future drafts.
Those are tough words for a #1 pick. Some evaluators even believed other quarterbacks might have gone ahead of Mendoza in a stronger class. The whispers were real. But the Raiders did their homework. GM John Spytek and owner Mark Davis flew commercial and private, drove through the South and Midwest, and spent over 7 months studying every quarterback in this class. Assistant GM Brian Stark had already written a full report on Mendoza from his Cal tape a full year before the draft.
Never an easy day, a lot of tough decisions. Never easy moving on from any player, let alone guys like Sauce and Quinnen, who've been a part of this organization and a part of this team this year. But we put a lot of
effort leading up into this day, what they're really worth in these players and what you might be willing to do to part ways with them. And we got to today and had these offers that we just felt were too good for the team, and we made that with Sauce and Quinnen.
But the moment the Raiders were fully sold came at Pro Day. And it wasn't even Mendoza's throws that closed the deal. It was how he ran it. He organized everything for his teammates, telling them what routes to run so they could impress the scouts. It was all about the team. That selflessness was the final stamp of approval.
Welcome inside Lucas Oil Stadium, the site of a 23-17 loss for the Indianapolis Colts here in Week 17 at the hands of the Jacksonville Jaguars for the Colts' 6th consecutive loss on the outside looking into the postseason.
Teams calling to trade for the pick got one answer: no. On draft night, the Raiders' war room had one message: call Fernando. He's the guy.
I know it. Pick is in, and they go with edge rusher from Texas Tech, David Bailey. David Bailey, a really, really, really good player. I was watching his tape right before I walked into the speakeasy. About 6'4", 251 pounds. He's an incredible power player. He's an incredible speed player. If he gets his hands on you, his hands are like clubs. Quite literally, he can attack and destroy, attack and disengage from blocks.
The small details are encouraging. The power in his throwing motion, the hip rotation. And Mendoza himself? He's not complaining about sitting behind Cousins. Not even a little.
Pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select Kenyon Sadiq,
Frank.
tight end, Oregon.
The Brady comparison is everywhere. Mendoza wears number 15 to honor Raiders legend Tom Flores, and now plays for a franchise where Brady is a minority owner and his personal idol.
Omar Cooper Jr., the wide receiver out of Indiana, is now in New York.
Whoever their quarterback is in 2027 is going to have a real good time.
But here's the irony. The man Mendoza idolizes is the same man most responsible for keeping him on the bench. Brady's entire philosophy is patience above all else. That doctrine is guiding this whole plan. The Alex Smith to Patrick Mahomes blueprint has been mentioned more than once. Cousins and Mendoza are set to be very similar in how they prepare and how they compete.
Grade would you give the Jets? Which I guess I can ask you real quick and then we'll get into these day 3 things. I went B plus A. I think, again, we don't know how these players are going to turn out. Nobody. The Jets don't know how they're going to turn out. You and I certainly don't know for anything how these guys are going to turn out. But if you looked at what the Jets wanted to accomplish, it's hard to poke holes in anything they did.
It's about the process. In Kansas City, Mahomes sat behind Smith for nearly a full season. Learned film study, learned how to be a pro. When he finally stepped on the field, MVP, Super Bowl. The Raiders want that same trajectory. They also watched Bryce Young get thrown into a broken situation in Carolina and get destroyed. They saw what impatience does to a young quarterback. They decided they would not make the same mistake.
That's where Muji and Aaron Glenn now have a blank canvas to do this type of stuff. Yes, on top of this too, right? This is the word on the street that the 2027 draft is supposed to be loaded. So the fact that the Jets will have 3 first-round picks for that, the fact that the Jets will have 2 for the 2026 draft, is there a quarterback that comes out? Maybe they're picking number 3. Let's say the Tennessee Titans are at number 1 again. Oh, wait, there's a quarterback there. We can trade to number 1 and definitely get that guy.
The offensive line is still a question mark. The wide receiver room is still thin. Even with Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty, this roster isn't complete yet. Throwing a 22-year-old into that environment, even a Heisman winner, could do real damage. Letting him sit protects him and gives him a chance to grow. And historically, only 2 number 1 overall picks have made the playoffs as a rookie. The odds don't favor rushing him anyway. The Raiders are betting on process. They're betting on a man who was going to Yale before one scholarship changed his life, who survived 3 offensive coordinators at Cal, who transferred to Indiana and turned a program upside down in a single season. That man has the patience and the mental makeup to learn behind Cousins and eventually become what this franchise has been searching for since Rich Gannon left.
But going back to the combine and talking to teams and scouts, and it's funny how often the 2027 quarterback class was brought up organically. Teams already have their eye on next year's class, and that's not unusual. I think teams are always advanced scouting.
The Raiders believe Fernando Mendoza is their guy. They just believe he'll be that guy on their timeline, not anyone else's. In a league that chews up young quarterbacks and spits them out, that kind of patience might just be the smartest decision they've made in decades.